Are Vietnamese people poisoning each other? Have you ever had this thought? Maybe not. After this video, you will definitely have this question, and after watching to the end, you will find the answer yourself. Hello everyone. There are things that you don't need to swallow, you don't need to smoke, you don't need to smell, and you don't need to recognize. They come into your life in a silent way. No gunshots, no threats, no pressure. There is only one thing: we give it to each other. Today, Vietnamese people are not only poisoned by food, but also poisoned by words, by behavior, by carelessness, and the habit of repeating the wrong thing without being ashamed. No one is as good as the Vietnamese. No need for any enemies, no need for any force to pull the strings, no need for any big conspiracy. We, the people who live in the same country, with the same language, with the same food, have been, are, and will continue to be poisoned by what we call normal. So what exactly are we poisoning each other with? With freshly watered vegetables, but glued clean. With pieces of meat pumped red, then stepped on the chain of kindness. With sweet words, but inside is a lie. And with blind faith that everyone does that. What is wrong with what we do? We put our faith in the signs hanging on the wall, even though we don't know who gave it to whom, and based on what. And then, one day, the 9 people who used to hold the highest position in the food safety industry were prosecuted for corruption. That's it. A person whom society once trusted, given the responsibility to protect people's meals, is the one who helps the legal poison pills go into every meal. We have been poisoned for too long, to the point where we no longer recognize the strange taste, no longer distinguish between real vegetables and fake vegetables, no longer know who is telling the truth, who is telling the lie, and no longer have the awareness to understand where is the goodwill, where is the trick. Worse than that, we are not just victims, but we are becoming the next person. We praise the fake, we share the wrong, we curse the poison, and then turn around to curse the good people. And just like that, each person holds a pill in his hand, gives it to others, and then swallows it himself. This society does not need more chemical factories, just a few more million people who do not know the difference between right and wrong. And if one day we realize that the poison does not come from food, but from very familiar things, then maybe it's too late. When people think of poison, they often think of some bad guy who is doing dangerous things. But here, in our daily lives, the one who gives the medicine to others is often a familiar person or himself. You go to the market to buy a bunch of green vegetables. The seller says the vegetables of that brother's house do not have medicine. It looks really bad, really clean. But you don't know that piece of land is next to the garbage, and last night, people just watered it with unprocessed water. Your neighbors just had a baby, so everyone congratulated and gave gifts. You also followed along, but you didn't know that the full moon gift was the cause of the child's death. You blindly follow the trend, not knowing that behind the trend is someone else's ruin. You dare to speak out against the chaos, but you don't know that the person standing next to you is the one causing the chaos. We are accustomed to pointing fingers at a particular person or a certain place, but forget that we ourselves can also be that person or that place. Because the poison doesn't always come from outside. Sometimes it comes from inside, from our own behavior. A young man surnamed Nguyen shared, "I was still in school when I knew the word cheating. At that time, I just thought that cheating was done by bad students. However, after entering the university, I witnessed many cases of cheating. The most impressive case is a female student in our class who often came to class late and left early. Everyone was suspicious, but no one asked. Until one day we saw her carrying a bag of books back home. We discovered her secret. She lived in a dormitory far from our school. Every morning she rode her bicycle to school late, and after class she went to a private tutor, then went back to the dormitory. But she did all of this without anyone's knowledge. So she could get good grades by studying while others had to work hard. According to Nguyen, he was lucky because he never cheated. Even when faced with the temptation, he still resisted. However, he believes that many students cheat and still get caught. In his opinion, the habit of cheating stems from the desire to succeed, but it is built on the foundation of dishonesty. When we are used to cheating, we will make it a habit. Therefore, when we step into society, we still want to succeed but do not want to try. Instead, we look for shortcuts and loopholes. From there, the chain of cheating continues, he said. From knowingly swallowing the wrong medicine to letting it happen unintentionally, we are slowly poisoning ourselves without realizing it. If you are aware that what you are doing is wrong, then you are not yet poisoned. However, if you think what you are doing is correct, then you are completely poisoned. But how do we decontaminate ourselves? To answer this question, journalist and writer Min Hong said that the first step is to recognize the poison. If you recognize it, you must immediately throw it away. Otherwise, the poison will spread throughout your body. It will be difficult to cure, but it is still possible to be cured. But if you do not recognize the poison and think that it is nutritious, then you will die, he said. So how do we know which is the poison and which is the antidote? We need to constantly update and expand our knowledge, enrich our own spiritual life, learn about the history of our nation and of mankind. From there, we will learn about what is beautiful, what is ugly, what is right, and what is wrong. Many years ago, Vietnam experienced a period of turmoil. Many new ideas flooded in, confusing the public. Many people were bewildered and did not know what to follow. At that time, a senior journalist told his colleagues to read the book The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. The main idea of the novel is that there are two cities, London and Paris. London represents the ruling class with decadent morality, and Paris represents the people with revolutionary ideas. He wanted his colleagues to draw lessons from the book to see which side they should stand on. Through the story of the characters, the author pointed out the decadence and corruption of the ruling class and praised the spirit of sacrifice and love of the people. The book had a profound impact on his colleagues and friends, helping them to clearly identify the poison and choose the right path. Journalist Min Hong also gave an example from his own experience. During the Doi Moi period, Vietnam opened its doors to international integration, bringing many temptations. At that time, he was a young journalist who often interviewed experts and businessmen from many countries. He once talked to a foreign expert who confessed that he was surprised by the Vietnamese people's simple lifestyle. He said that in his country, if a person has enough money, he or she will use it to enjoy pleasure. But here I see that even though Vietnamese people earn quite a bit, they still keep their original lifestyle. They only spend money on basic necessities and the rest is saved. He thinks that Vietnamese people are very smart because they know how to maintain the purity of their soul, said Hong. However, he also encountered another person who took advantage of Vietnam's open doors to amass wealth. After making money, that person changed his behavior. He abandoned his wife and children to live with a young woman. He squandered his money on parties and entertainment. One day he had a car accident and died. His death shocked me. I was only 27 years old. Why did he die so young and meaningless? Looking at his corpse, I realized that although he had made a lot of money, he did not have any real friends. His wife did not attend his funeral because she was already remarried. His relatives did not show up because they were afraid of being implicated. Only a few colleagues attended his funeral out of politeness. From there, I realized that money was not everything, said Hong. Therefore, to avoid being poisoned, we must constantly renew our thinking and behave in accordance with our beliefs. However, in our daily lives, there are always people who deliberately or unintentionally spread poison. So how should we deal with them? Hong said that we should not dwell too much on the past. We should look to the future. If we focus too much on the bad things in the past, we will regret it and cannot move forward. We should learn from the past and build a better future, he said. So to avoid being poisoned by the people around us, we need to be vigilant and proactive. We need to know where the poison is coming from, who is giving the poison, and why we need to block the source of poison before it affects us. That is the way to protect ourselves, he said. Each person holds a pill in his hand, gives it to others, and then swallows it himself. This society does not need more chemical factories, just a few more million people who do not know the difference between right and wrong. And if one day we realize that the poison does not come from food, but from very familiar things, then maybe it's too late. When people think of poison, they often think of some bad guy who is doing dangerous things. But here, in our daily lives, the one who gives the medicine to others is often a familiar person or himself.
You buy a piece of fresh red meat at the supermarket. There is a package, there is a label, there is a clean label, but you don't know the pig before when the wound was watered, or the meat was whitewashed, colored, put in a bag. We believe in beauty. Beauty is clean, clean is safe, and if there is an injection, then absolutely assured, we believe in the injection more than our own eyes, graft injection, surgical injection, injection test, injection of the root source. So who sticks the injection, who checks the injection, who follows, you don't have to know, as long as there is an injection, it is a belief. And the seller may not have the intention to poison anyone, But when they know that that vegetable is contaminated, you know that meat is not good enough, but they still say it's okay, everyone eats like that. It's a medicine and the person who takes it is the consumer. In Vietnam, people can take medicine together without breaking the rules. Just one sentence. My house is very clean. Believe me, there is insurance. Just try it. No one has anything. Everyone does that. There is nothing too serious. We hear bad, become used to it, and it is that familiarity that makes the seller lie not to see it, and the beer swallows it, but still thinks he is eating well. There is no warning, no sign. Only one side lies to make it easy to sell, and one side does not want to know the truth because they are afraid of losing their sense of peace. And then when something happens, when there are sick people, when there is a scandal, everything goes back to the old saying, why do people believe? But do they have a choice, or is it because society is full of drugs to the point that there is no other way to believe? No one orders, no one forces, but everyone does. The seller wants to be profitable, he has to do bad goods. And then people can't tell anymore. Where is the real thing? Where is the trick? Where is the clean vegetable? Where is the clean form? Where is the sincerity? Where is the skill to sell goods? We eat into people, things that no one controls. We swallow the words in our hearts that are not true, and gradually we lose the ability to distinguish. A person who sells real vegetables is not trusted. A person who speaks the truth is doubted. A good product is not comparable to the ultimate thing. And then when a kind person can't live, the drug addict will sit up. We still eat every day, still hear every day, still live among each other like that, but each person is holding a pill in his hand, and each day is giving it to a person next to him. No one forces, only society is used to drugging each other in an unconscious way. In society, drug dealers will never have a chance if the beer knows the difference clearly. But when people no longer have the ability to recognize right and wrong, real and fake, then that is the time for the fake seller to do the real thing. When a bunch of vegetables is water, then washed 3 times, glued clean, and still sold, it is because the beer does not know the difference or knows, but is afraid. When a piece of meat is pumped, deodorized, packed carefully, and stored in the fridge, and the consumer still believes it is beautiful, then the seller does not need to hide it anymore, because they know the beer has lost the ability to doubt. Drug dealers can not only live, but also live well, live rich, live peaceful, because they have a crowd of people who do not want to know the truth. The most dangerous thing is not deception, but when deception becomes normal and people no longer recognize it. When the whole society is used to the fake team, the real person will be doubted. When people are used to the fake team, the real person will be hated. When all ends meet, who stands up and becomes the loser? We live in an independence, but less people distinguish. The more drug dealers, the more drugs appear, the more the society is in order. And when society is in order, the difference between right and wrong becomes meaningless. A seller tells the truth, no one listens. A liar but knows the PR is fake. A cheap product but full of drugs still sells well, because the consumer does not need to believe in the truth. We are living in an era where the fake team is trusted more than the truth. Advertising deception is trusted more than the real experience. People who speak gently, sweetly, easily make others feel better than those who speak the truth. And when people no longer distinguish where the truth is, the drug is officially legalized. We don't need anyone to stand behind to destroy, because the destruction is being raised by the mind. Everyone knows some products are not clean. Everyone doubts the words of advertising. Everyone has been deceived once. But instead of being warned, many people choose to be silent and accept everyone is the same. Living here must know to doubt, as long as you can survive. I know it all, but what can I change now? And that is the best environment for drug addicts. They don't need to be good. They just need to know that they can't distinguish. And when people confess to the fake, society will pay the price with faith. When the faith is lost, all social relations become a trade. A light dose of medicine every day. People who sell drugs can live. People who don't know how to be drugged live in a daze. And people who know clearly but are silent live in fatigue. And so, we are pulling each other down to a dangerous level where no one believes anyone. And everyone has to take a little medicine to survive. People today are not only drugged with food, but also drugged with thoughts. Not everyone eats vegetables to detoxify. Not everyone drinks low-quality milk. But almost everyone has swallowed a few wrong words in their head that they thought were right. We are drugged with words, with prejudices, with words that seem harmless, but have more power than the virus. That guy is a scoundrel. That one is a hypocrite. This guy is a hypocrite. He must have eaten money to say that. He doesn't curse, which means he belongs to the other side. I once received a comment, "This channel is a hypocrite." Just because I talk about a period of history, no swear words, no blushing, no disrespecting anyone. It's just a question. Why did a young government, just established, without a military, without diplomacy, still exist in the midst of a chaotic world, and immediately end up in a crisis? I once saw a video of a Vietnamese girl in a foreign country drinking coca in a clip. She didn't say anything about politics, she didn't show any attitude. And then she was called a scoundrel, she was called a traitor. She was told to drink American water, then go back to America to live. She didn't say anything, she just smiled. I know, in her heart, she must be very sad, because clearly, we are living in a society, and the difference is seen as betrayal. The kindness is seen as acting, keeping silence is seen as being a traitor. When a person is not only cursed but also humiliated, when a person is only worried about sweet water and is doubtful of his love for water, then the poison is no longer in the food, it is deep in the mind. How are we drugging each other? By doubting everything that is kind and chasing anything that looks like a number. Vietnamese people used to have a very beautiful saying, knowing how to keep a good mood, knowing how to live honestly, knowing how to take advantage of others if they don't understand everything. But now what? People who haven't heard all the words have cursed. People who don't understand everything had been bored. People who have not lived in the war had been cursed by those who have died to survive. A society where comments on the internet are heavier than parents' words. A society where people with knowledge are silent because they are afraid of being attacked. A society where only keeping a kind tone is enough to be doubted. So I really want to ask, are we living or being drugged by each other's extremism? When the truth is no longer heard, but only those who curse loudly are right, then society no longer needs poison in food, because the head has been poisoned. Black and white thoughts, group thoughts, blind thoughts, all are creating a spiritual poison, making Vietnamese people not calm enough to listen to each other.
Yesterday, I saw a comment that stopped me in my tracks. It read, "If it weren't for those two letters CH, which changed Vietnam to China, then Chinese people would probably have been running rampant in Vietnam a long time ago." Yeah, those are exactly my thoughts too. It's as if I'd known for a long time that something was wrong, but I didn't know how to explain it. And suddenly that sentence appeared and put it all together perfectly. I wish I had spoken sooner, but unfortunately I've always been in the minority. But now that I see others speaking up, I know I'm not alone. We are a large army and we are trying to build our own strength. I want to reach out to you, a friend who shares similar feelings and hopes for a better homeland. Let's join hands to restore the beauty of Vietnam. Yes, you're right. It's not the words that hurt the most. We're used to that. Every day we encounter different types of criticism and insults, sometimes justified and sometimes unjustified. However, what hurts the most is when the spread of hate speech goes overboard and affects innocent people. We find ourselves stuck in a quagmire of resentment, unable to extricate ourselves. It's as though we're trapped in a labyrinth with no way out. Our inner torment is growing day by day. It seems like we have all become too accustomed to these negative emotions that they have become a part of our daily life. I'm so frustrated because Vietnamese people no longer know how to live normally, how to trust and interact with each other. We are wary of the person next to us. Now, perhaps the most terrifying thing is that we no longer consider this behavior as abnormal. A society where people no longer have the ability to debate, but only the ability to attack. So what's the difference? A place where people are drugging each other every day. If food is a drug that goes into the stomach, then tomorrow's words are drugs that go straight into other people's honor. And the pain of honor is often more painful than the disease. I have read comments like this. It says, "The US is selling alcohol to China." Hearing those words, I'm not angry. I just feel shocked. Shocked not because people are being cursed, but shocked that the head is used tomorrow to give itself is right. Speaking of people who left their hometowns, that person wrote 70 years running after France, 50 years running after the US, and preparing to continue running when expelled. That sentence sounds like I don't understand anything about the past. but if you understand, it's a cruel saying. That person wrote, that sentence sounds like I don't understand anything about the past, but if you understand, it's a cruel saying. That person does not live in a place marked by history, does not see his loved ones being educated, but does not have a home. Does not know the feeling of having to part with parents, children, hometown to cling to a fragile boat in the middle of the night, but is still ready to open his mouth to curse. The US is selling alcohol to China, but it's shocking that the head is used tomorrow to give itself the right. Speaking of people who left their hometowns, that person wrote, that sentence sounds like I don't understand anything about the past, but if you understand, it's a cruel saying. That person does not live in a place marked by history, does not need to know the situation, just needs that person to be different from me enough to curse. The poison here is not a chemical, but a feeling of contempt when trampling on others to feel right. If I stay, it's love for the country. Whoever goes is a betrayal. Whoever does not agree with the point of view is the wrong hand. Whoever does not curse like me is the other side. And so every time someone dares to tell another point of view, there are people waiting for tomorrow to probably raise to say that again. A guy who eats money to be on the other side. Speaking in such a gentle voice, there is an intention. No need for evidence. No need to understand the history. No need to ask why people have to go. Just need to curse to feel light. But that lightness is a kind of mental poison. It makes people forget that Vietnamese people used to die because they ran. Vietnamese people used to raise each other even on both shores of the ocean. Vietnamese people used to. I know there are many videos about how Vietnamese people treat each other badly, but I want to ask one more question at the end of this video. And the last question I would like to leave for all of you. No one wants us to be bad kids, but one day the good people will have to ask themselves which one to choose between kindness and survival. For example, when we buy things, we are afraid of being short of money. So even though we got paid, we still keep calculating how much money we have left and how much money we need to save. Even though the boss pays us overtime, we still keep asking for more money. And if he doesn't pay us extra money, we complain that he doesn't know how to appreciate his employees. When we sell things, we are afraid that no one will believe it's real because everyone doubts each other. So when someone buys our stuff, we make sure they lower their guard. We lure them in with our smile, tell them stories about ourselves, tell them a lot of compliments. Sometimes we pretend we're nice people, but in fact we're just trying to get their trust. When we send a car, we are afraid of losing money. When we go to the hospital, we are afraid that the doctor will give us too much medicine to eat. We say that we only eat 1 pill a day, but secretly we eat 3 pills a day. We hide the remaining pills from the doctor. We don't want him to know that we eat too many pills because we are afraid that he will increase the dose next time. It seems that we all assume that everyone else is also doing badly. But why is that? Why do we always think that way? Because we feel like we're in a life or death situation. We keep checking around to see if anyone is following us. We are afraid of being stabbed from behind. Even though we haven't done anything to anyone, we are still afraid. That person will stab us in the back. If one day we wake up and decide to be a good person, then we are doomed. Maybe we won't be killed, but we will surely suffer. He used that excuse to justify his actions. There were probably other drug dealers before him. He knew that he could never be the last one. After him, there will be more people who do the same thing because everyone knows that if they do it, someone else will do it. So when you are the first one to do something, it means you are taking an unnecessary risk. You will become the target of all the bad things. That's why no one dares to be the first one. They are afraid of what comes after, because there will still be people behind you, people who can exploit your results without having to take risks. Those people will push you out and step over your body to achieve their own goals. You know, there are many people who work hard, but when they get close to success, some other people with more power will come and snatch everything away from them. Their efforts are in vain. All their efforts are wasted. They have no bargaining power. They have no choice but to submit. If we don't stand up for ourselves, we'll be stepped on by others. In short, if we don't know how to protect ourselves, we will be miserable. We all know that when we fall down, no one will reach out a helping hand. We will have to deal with our own problems. Someone cheats on their spouse, then justifies themselves by saying, "Everyone does it, can't I?" They think that's a valid reason. If everyone is doing it, why shouldn't they? Everyone is doing it anyway. What's the difference if they do it too? In reality, they just don't want to be worse off than others. They've seen how others cheated and lied. And if they don't cheat or lie, they will be the ones at a disadvantage. Some people say, if I don't do it, someone else will do it. Do they really think that way? Do they really think there is no room for honesty? Or are they just looking for an excuse for their own behavior? They say, if I don't do it, someone else will do it. But if everyone thinks that way, it will become a trend. Everyone will start deceiving everyone else. Those people are not completely wrong. Many people are bullying and oppressing others, and those who are weak will continue to be exploited and oppressed. However, we should also realize that if everyone thinks they can do whatever they want, then no one will respect anyone. If everyone thinks they can deceive others, then no one will ever trust anyone again. We have to admit that we live in a world full of lies and deception. But we must also understand that if everyone deceives everyone else, it will lead to chaos. So what should we do? Should we just let the bad things happen? Should we just let the bullies bully others? Of course not. But what can we do instead? If we see someone being bullied, we can stand up for them. However, we cannot control the thoughts of others. We cannot force others to be honest or kind. We often hear the phrase, "Do as I say, not as I do." We often blame others for not keeping their promises while we ourselves often break our promises. As long as we are still human, we all have the ability to make choices. We can choose to be good or bad. We can choose to be honest or deceitful. We can choose to be kind or cruel. The choice is ours. We often say, "It's easy for you to say, but it's hard for me to do." Why is that? Because you are weaker than me. That's why you have to endure more than me. But the question is, how long can you endure? How long can you keep enduring like that? When will you explode? When will you get tired? We can be patient, but we also have our patience. One day we will all have to face our own demons. You know, we often hear people say, "Be nice to others, but don't be fooled by others." Well, how do we do that? How do we draw the line between kindness and foolishness? Just be nice to others, but don't trust them. That's why I said at the beginning of the video, we are all faced with a difficult choice. No one wants to be fooled, but if we stop being kind, we will become monsters. Is that true? Will a kind person be hated by everyone? Sometimes we have to be mean to survive. Sometimes we have to be strong to protect ourselves. Sometimes we have to be ruthless to defend our dignity. Sometimes we have to be selfish to preserve our last bit of humanity. We have to be cruel to survive in this world. If we are weak, we will be bullied. Well, maybe that's the price we have to pay for being human. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to share your thoughts with me in the comments section below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.